Welcome. My name is Odile Heinders. I am a teacher in the Bachelor Online Culture, and I am very happy that I can take 20 minutes together with my colleague to inform you about one of our courses in the Bachelor Online Culture, and that is a course on feminists, on feminist artists and intellectuals. As said, this is part of our BA program, and you could say that the main question of this course is: what about feminist issues in today's digital global society? Okay, we are doing a course on feminism, and that means that there are some concepts that we work with, and of course one of the first concepts is feminism. Is feminism itself? What is feminism? You could say that the definition of feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of the equality of the sexes. The main idea is men and women are equal, and that is the basis for building a society. Once you start talking about feminism, it immediately becomes clear that the opposite thing has to be recognized as well, and that is sexism. Sexism means there is a denial of women's rights and equality. Sexism means that people are convinced that one of the sexes is more dominant and more important than the other. This is all done within the public sphere, and public sphere is the third concept that we use a lot. Public sphere means we are talking about a realm of society in which opinion and ideas are discussed and defended. A fourth concept that we use is power, immediately related to empowerment. Power means there is someone who has authority in a society, an authority to do something, and empowerment means that some people have and get the capability to have power while others have not. Another concept we use is ideology, the ideals and ideas behind certain discourses and systems. And a very important term is intersectionality, meaning that there are various categories that are decisive for someone's identity. And you have a certain class, you have a family, you have education, ethnicity, religion, and all these sections are interrelated. And once people decide, okay, I am a feminist or I'm not a feminist, it's interesting to have a look at all these different interrelated connections as well. In this class, we talk about quite some interesting intellectuals, theorists, artists, and here I give an example of 4 of them. On the top right, a bit not so visible because I'm in this screen as well, is Simone de Beauvoir. You probably know her. She was a very important philosopher, existentialist in the 20th century in France. And she is so important for feminism because she wrote a book in 1949, The Deuxième Sexe, The Second Sex. And in this book, she made an argument about social constructivism of feminism. Her main idea was we are not born as women, we are made into women. We are socially constructed into behaving as women. So it has not so much to do with the fact that we have some biological features, some physical appearances. No, the fact that we live in a society, that we are nurtured and educated in a certain way has an effect on how we behave as women. This is a very important idea that still is discussed a lot by scholars and theorists, and that is why we start with her work when we are doing this course. An interesting example is next to her, Sayran Atesh, and she is a activist Muslim scholar, a legal scholar in fact, and she has taken a position as imam, as leader in a mosque in Berlin. And she's doing that out of the idea that women should be much more visible in Muslim religion. And of course, this is a very provocative position, as said, a very activist one as well. Lots of people are very much against this. But she, I think, is very courageous in doing this, and of course why she is doing this is that she would like to have a debate in Islam religion on what is the position of women. On the bottom of the slide, you see two interesting ladies. The one on the left is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a literary author, living part of the year in Nigeria, where she was born, and in the United States. And she is very important for having written very interesting books on identity and on the position of women. But she is also well known and interesting in this context of feminism because she did a TED Talk in 2012, and in this TED Talk she talks about feminism, and in particular about feminism for youngsters and feminism for young people in Africa as well. And this has become a very important talk, but also later a brochure, a booklet that was read by many, many people. Next to her, you are familiar with her as well, is Beyoncé, a musician, pop singer, has said a lot about feminist issues and the position of women. And it's interesting that Beyoncé has taken out some of the words of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and used it in her song Flawless. You have probably know this song, lots of views on YouTube. And what Beyoncé is saying, in fact, is I use the words of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie in order to explain more about feminism. These are the type of women and theorists and activists that we discuss in class. We analyze their work, we put them in a context, we analyze the differences between their ideas, and that is very much that leads often to interesting debates in our class. When we are talking about feminism, we should also talk about the different waves, the different periods of feminism, starting at the end of the 19th, early 20th century, a time in which women were fighting for having a right to vote. Democracy is much older, started already at the beginning of the 19th century. Women did not have a vote, but then early 20th century, they started fighting for that. And that is usually what we call the first period of feminism. The second period of feminism starts with Simone de Beauvoir's work and then develops in the 1950s and 1960s. And this period is very much related to the freedom of bodily decisions, of decisions about your body. For instance, women fought for the right to have abortion, the right to use contraceptives, the right to have an education before becoming a mother, and so on and so forth. Very much the idea about freedom of the body. Third wave of feminism, the 1980s and 1990s, main idea then was that when you talk about feminism, you should not just talk about Western ideas on feminism, you should also have an eye for Black feminism, for homosexuality, for gender issues, differences between the sexes. So there was much more an idea of, it is not a universal concept, but there are a lot of different ideas on feminism. And we could say that today we are in a phase, a period of women and technology. We are living in the digital world, the world of the internet. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of freedom on the internet, but also there is a lot of there are a lot of interesting ideas in regard to the position of women on the internet. Some people say that women are not as much visible as men are. There is not so much, there are, for instance, not really important women who are on Twitter all the time. There are quite some differences in how men and women use the various social media. So that is very much a topic that we discuss in this class as well. Is this the case? And if so, why is it then the case? This is a slide just for the quotation about this, what I call the differences in feminism. This is a slide about Black sisterhood. The woman you see here is Toni Morrison, a very important, celebrated author in America. And she pointed in her work and in official public lectures at the fact that there is a big difference if you are born in a black or white family, because if you are born in a black family in the United States today, you are much more in dangerous positions than when you are born in a white family. And that has to do with issues of poverty and issues of lack of education and issues of different neighborhoods and gangs and so on. And it is very inspiring to discuss her work in the context of our class. Then we talk a lot about feminist analysis, and feminist analysis implies that we are focusing on the stereotypes used in discourses, political discourses, media representations. And this stereotype often is about this is what a man is about and this is what a woman is about. And of course, the stereotypes are that men are rational, active, they are acting in the public sphere, they have sexual agency, while as women are supposed to be emotional and sensitive and taking care of the family and functioning in the private sphere. Of course, these are stereotypes, but we recognize these stereotypes a lot in as said, the media, television, online discussions, and so on. And part of this class is analyzing this type of discourses and then seeing if it could be changed, if we could look at these positions differently. And then last part of the course is very much focusing on what is going on online. And we are interested then in misogyny. And misogyny, you probably know, is hate speech, hate against women. And there are some interesting and terrible cases that we discuss. For instance, this one, Elliot Rogers, he was a young guy, 22, when he murdered 6 people on the campus of Santa Barbara of the University of California in Santa Barbara. And before he did it in 2014, he published a manifesto online. And in this manifesto, he was recording himself. He explained why he hated women so much, why he was so angry, why the world is bad. A very cynical video, but very interesting from the perspective, what is happening here? Why did he published it on YouTube? What type of people are following him and liking him, and so on? What is going on? Why is there so much misogyny going on in the world of the online world?
Unfortunately, such anti-feminist and anti-female expressions are by no means an exception in the current online public sphere. On platforms, people can just come together and discuss all kinds of radical, extremist, countercultural ideas. In this course, as said, we examine the roles of feminists in this public sphere, or feminist public intellectuals, and I will shortly present the example of ContraPoints. ContraPoints is a YouTube vlogger who aims to counter misogynist discourses with her online presence. Her real name is Natalie Wynn, and Natalie is a 31-year-old transgender woman from Baltimore, Maryland. Just a few years ago, she was getting her PhD and teaching in philosophy at Northwestern University, Illinois. But she decided to quit, and now she has an extremely popular YouTube channel with the name ContraPoints. So the reason for this rather dramatic life decision, she has claimed, is that she wanted to be able to debate about topics that were actually discussed in the online public sphere, and not just in academia. She explained she wanted to use her education to combat some of the views that we can hear online that promote, for instance, fascist ideas and say that feminism is everything that is wrong with Western society today. So she turned to YouTube as her primary channel of expression. ContraPoints has 877K subscribers and almost 35 million total views as of this day. Her channel is financed through the crowdfunding platform Patreon, where she is among the top 20 creators. She has been called at one point in the New Yorker one of the few leftists anywhere who can be nuanced without being boring. The main goal of the ContraPoints channel is to counter right-wing political argumentation, which runs rampant on YouTube. Wynn's target audience, especially when she started her channel, were angry young white men who sympathize with alt-right ideas. And in her videos, she makes use of philosophy, sociology, but also personal experiences to explain progressive and feminist ideas. She educates her viewers about all kinds of topics, including the use of specified pronouns, radical feminists who exclude trans people, trans and non-binary identities, and masculinities as well. ContraPoints tries to understand the mindset of young men who are at risk of radicalizing, even claiming that she might have ended up as one of them at some point. She is able to speak to them at their own level, but she does this informed by her education. And this strategy is not without success, because testimonials can be found online of young men who thank her for showing them alternative perspectives on society and on gender. In one of her videos, she addresses the notorious group of incels. These are involuntary celibate males who blame women for their lack of success on the dating markets and sometimes seek their revenge, like Elliot Rodger did, whom we addressed before. ContraPoints doesn't just talk about these men, but actually addresses this potentially dangerous group. From her own experience, she is in a position to understand at least a little bit about the experiences of women, of transgender females, but also of men. And we actually see some of this back in her video titled Men.
Hi boys, it's me again. Just your average girl. Look, I may be a biological female, but I do hope that just for this video, we're able to converse as men. I want you to think back to 2016, which I know in internet years is like halfway between now and the decline of Rome. Do you like history, boys? How did Rome fall again? Was it the gays? Tell me all about it. Back in 2016, the big internet culture war was between feminists on one side and men's rights activists on the other. Whatever happened to that? These days it's as dead a meme as, I don't know, Harambe. I did want to do the fedora though. Every YouTuber who's ever covered the men's rights movement has done the fedora, and I wanted to put my own little twist on it. My wardrobe notes for this video say MRA femme fatale and fedora but make it fashion. School shooter realness. I feel like I'm also serving a little, red-pilled Carmen Sandiego. In this video, I want to ask, in all seriousness, what are we going to do about men? Because, no offense, but as a group, you guys kind of seem like you're not doing okay. Could a group of people who are purchasing uncooked alpha yogurt possibly be subsisting in a state of psychological balance? Fellas, are regular bowel movements gay? I guess, yeah, kind of. You don't see a whole lot of psyllium husk in heterosexual medicine cabinets. I'm losing my target audience here. Listen, my dudes, let's just say I'm kind of worried about you guys. And I'm not saying I'm any better. To be clear, I'm not okay either. There's like 15 jars of urine in my refrigerator right now. Yeah, that's right. Women pee too, okay? Get over it. I'm so sorry if this offends your male notions of feminine delicacy, but I, for one, will not be shamed by your patriarchal bullshit. You boys, you're very rational, aren't you? Ugh, I suppose I was too. I admit that these days, rationality, it's something I struggle with, both as a biological female and as a Pisces moon. But when I decided I wanted to make a video for men, ContraPoints, for men, I started brushing up on my reasoning skills because I want to be so fucking rational for you. So to prepare for this video, I read Newton's Principia Mathematica, Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, and of course, the philosophical classic, The Rational Male by Royo Caliente. So my mind is well lubricated, and I'm ready for what I have no doubt will be a penetrating, intellectual interchange. Look, I want to play by your rules, okay? So there will be no emotions in this video. I will present my arguments in strict logical form, relying only on facts, reason, evidence, and deductive proof.
So here she's clearly making fun of the binary opposition that women are supposed to be emotional and men are supposed to be rational beings. And thus she's destabilizing and undermining this binary. Another thing we need to mention about Wynne is that she clearly maintains a very firm distinction between herself as the creator and ContraPoint as a web personality. But then within her YouTube videos, she plays multiple characters with names like the Doctor, Tiffany Tumbles, who is a makeup artist, Fritz the Fascist, who later has to transition along with Wynne and becomes Freya the Fascist, and also Tabby, an anarchist cat girl. These characters allow her to play out different viewpoints that prevail in the contemporary public sphere without necessarily fully embracing any of them or critiquing them from the outset. We see how she literally enters into a dialogue with herself on feminist issues. Odile Heinders uses the concept of the stage and studies how the public intellectual performs her life on multiple stages. This includes rhetorical strategies, meaning the way in which she voices her arguments, her style, but also performance, including setting, clothing, and lighting. ContraPoint has a humorous rhetorical style, and she uses excessive and theatrical settings. In her critical videos about influential figures who spread misogynist ideas, such as Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, she always gracefully acknowledges her opponent's valid points before she will debunk weak arguments and reveal the influence of an often hidden far-right political and anti-feminist agenda. She understands that people aren't just convinced by ideas, but she also makes an appeal to emotions and to the visual. So when we now revisit the main concept for the course, we see how some of them are coming back in the case study, and then we would use them as a basis for our analysis in class. ContraPoint, as said, tackles pervasive discourses of sexism, and she does this by exposing their underlying ideology or belief system, and putting another ideology, often a more progressive and feminist one, in its place. In doing so, she's empowering herself by taking the agency to speak in an authoritative manner about these topics. She is possibly also empowering other females, and especially transgender women, to enter into the public debate. So this makes her an informative example of the roles of feminist public intellectuals in the online public sphere.
Well, this is part of what this course is about, and I think my main issue or the main message that I would like to share with you here is that feminism is not a closed off topic. It is not something that is what it is, and that is what it is about. Feminism is an ongoing debate, framing societal issues, political issues, issues of equality between the sexes, and every time we have to rethink what can a feminist position in this context be. What is important is that feminism does not only have a Western focus, very much it is a global issue as well, and it is interesting to examine the differences between the different continents and different cultures. And then what is also very important is that when you are following this course, the idea is not that you are supposed to be a feminist yourself, or that I as a teacher have to turn you into a feminist. The message is that we are interested in this frame, in using this frame in order to analyze what is going on in society. What are the interesting social and political topics in our society? We use feminism as a frame that teaches us something about our world. And I very much hope to see you somewhere in class, somewhere in the future. Thank you very much.